Hello everyone, I am the storyteller and I am here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep, so before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching? Now, the tunnel of no return, Mr. Kane. A seasoned explorer with a knack for unearthing the world's most enigmatic mysteries, stood before the entrance to the infamous Tunnel 13. His heart thudded in his chest, not from fear but from sheer excitement. This was the culmination of years of research, whispered rumors, and half-forgotten legends. He had finally found it. The entrance was deceptively ordinary. A plain, weathered metal door jutted out from the overgrown hillside, flanked by crumbling concrete pillars. A rusted sign bolted above read, "Tunnel 13," the paint flaking away like the remnants of an ancient secret. A chill wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it an inexplicable sense of foreboding. Finally, Kane muttered to himself, adjusting his flashlight. The rumors surrounding Tunnel 13 were varied and wild. Some claimed it was a Cold War-era military experiment gone awry, others that it was a gateway to another dimension. Skeptics dismissed it as an abandoned mining tunnel, but Kane knew better. Too many people had vanished after venturing inside. Too many stories spoke of unexplainable phenomena. He pulled the metal door open with a groan, revealing a yawning black void. As he stepped inside, the air grew instantly colder, biting through his jacket. His footsteps echoed hollowly off the damp concrete walls. The light from his flashlight pierced the darkness, revealing nothing but the endless stretch of the tunnel ahead. Still, Kane pressed on, his determination outweighing the growing unease curling in his gut. It wasn't long before Kane realized something was off. The tunnel seemed to stretch on forever, with no sign of the end. Every few hundred steps, he marked the wall with chalk, a precaution he had learned during his many expeditions. But when he paused to check his progress, he found the markings had vanished. Puzzled, he retraced his steps, but found no evidence of his earlier markings. His unease deepened. He consulted his map, one he had painstakingly compiled from scraps of information and old schematics. But the tunnel he was in bore no resemblance to anything on paper. It twisted and stretched in ways that defied logic, and soon Kane realized he was hopelessly lost. Hours seemed to pass, or was it days? Time had become meaningless in the oppressive dark. The tunnel's walls seemed to close in on him, the air growing heavier with each step. The smell of damp concrete and mold was suffocating. Yet Kane's curiosity burned brighter than his fear. Something was keeping him here, urging him to press forward. That's when he first heard the whispers. At first they were faint, indistinct murmurs carried on the stagnant air. But as Kane walked deeper into the tunnel, the voices grew louder, more insistent. They echoed off the walls, overlapping into a cacophony of warnings. Turn back while you still can. This place is not for the living. You'll never leave. Kane froze, his breath hitching. He swept his flashlight in every direction, but there was no one. Just the endless gray walls of the tunnel. His rational mind told him the voices were tricks of acoustics, a product of his exhaustion and isolation. But deep down, he knew better. He wasn't alone. He quickened his pace, his footsteps echoing louder, almost drowning out the whispers. But they persisted, growing more urgent with each passing moment. And then, they began to call his name. Kane. Kane. The sound was impossibly close, as if the voices were right beside him. His pulse thundered in his ears. He tried to block them out, focusing instead on putting one foot in front of the other. But the tunnel seemed to shift and warp around him. The walls began to ripple like water, and the floor seemed to tilt and sway. The flashlight flickered, casting fleeting shadows that danced and leered at the edges of his vision. Desperation clawed at him. He began opening every door he came across, hoping for an escape. But each door led only to another identical stretch of tunnel. Some doors opened to walls, others to gaping voids that seemed to stretch into infinity. It was as if the tunnel was toying with him, leading him deeper into its labyrinthine depths. And then he saw it. He saw in the distance a faint light glimmered, Hope surged in his chest, and he broke into a run, ignoring the protests of his aching legs. The light grew brighter as he approached, revealing an open chamber at the end of the tunnel. But what he found there was far from salvation. The chamber was vast, its walls etched with strange pulsating symbols that seemed alive. In the center stood a monolithic black structure, its surface smooth and reflective like obsidian. The whispers were deafening now, a swirling vortex of voices that seemed to emanate from the monolith. Cain approached it cautiously, his flashlight trembling in his hand. As he drew closer, he saw his reflection in the surface of the monolith. But it wasn't his reflection. The figure staring back at him had hollow, sunken eyes and a twisted grin that sent ice through his veins. Before he could react, the surface of the monolith rippled, and a shadowy tendril shot out, wrapping around his wrist. Cain screamed, but his voice was swallowed by the roar of the whispers. The tendril dragged him toward the monolith, the reflective surface rippling like liquid. He struggled, but it was futile. The last thing he saw before being pulled inside was his own terrified face, distorted and screaming. The monolith grew still, the whispers fading into silence. The chamber was empty once more. Weeks later, a search team was dispatched to find Cain. They found the entrance to Tunnel 13 sealed with a heavy metal door, bolted shut from the inside. A fresh warning sign had been erected. Do not enter. This tunnel is not safe. The search team never found any trace of Cain. But those who ventured too close to the tunnel's entrance on quiet nights claimed they could hear faint whispers carried on the wind, pleading and warning in equal measure. And on rare occasions, they swore they heard a voice among them, calling out for help. Cain, Tunnel 13 remains untouched, a legend and a warning for the curious. But deep within its depths, Mr. Cain's fate is sealed, trapped forever in the labyrinth of shadows. A cautionary tale for those who dare to venture where they shouldn't.